Hey, what's up everyone? Thanks again as always for taking some time out of your day to check out my channel. So today we're going to be talking about negative harmony. So, like many other people out there, for people who don't know what negative harmony is, before we really dive into that, a lot of people think that we first should understand what the overtone series are. And so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but because whoever is fascinated about this could just dive right into it. It's an amazing subject. And so in nature, there is no such thing as a perfect sine wave. You know, a perfect sine wave consists of this. You know, there's so much things that are happening all the time that it makes it impossible for that to happen in nature. Nonetheless, here's what ends up happening. So now, for a moment, let's imagine hitting a low C on the piano. Right? So now, let's take the time to really think about this. First, a hammer is hitting a string, so there is a thud. That's the first sound. And then the string is now vibrating entirely, making the air molecules just vibrate in there, and it's going to bounce everywhere, which we tend to forget. It's not just to our ears. It's going to go towards the wall of the piano, towards the other strings, and in a sense, start creating another hum. That's just the beginning. Now, let's just pay attention to the actual string itself. What a lot of people don't really know, and you can actually pay attention by looking at a guitar string being plucked. The same exact thing happens with the piano. So at first, that string is vibrating as a whole entire string, creating that first note, which we call the fundamental. But what a lot of people don't know is that at the same time, that string is also vibrating in half with half intensity. What's even more interesting is that with this half intensity, it's technically resonating a new pitch over the fundamental. And hence, the name overtone series. And so going on, like I said, the string is vibrating in half within itself, but it's also at the same time vibrating in 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, 7, 8, and so on, to where we can't even notice. But here's where it gets more interesting. When it finally gets to the next set where it's vibrating within 3, it then resonates another pitch, but it's no longer just an octave C higher like the first one. It goes to a fifth, giving you a G. And so, in music, that is referred to as a perfect fifth. Alright, so now let's continue. Negative harmony. So, now that we have a basic grasp of the overtone series, now let's take a look at negative harmony. One way that you could kind of look at it is as the undertone series. This obviously, of course, does not exist in nature, and it's a theoretical concept of how to create a harmony and harmonize in music. And in a sense, what we're technically looking for is the mirror image of said note or music chord or whatever. And so, how does negative harmony work? This is how the process goes. First, we start by picking what we want to be the tonic, and what its dominant is. And for the sake of not blowing up our heads, let's just say that we're in the key of C. Cool. So now we have C and we have G, correct? And then the way the process works is that you work your way inwards towards the middle. So you have C and G, C sharp and G flat, so we're going backwards, D and F, D sharp, and then E. So, the way that negative harmony works is that you kind of want to pretend that right in between that E and the E flat, there's a mirror. And everything is just being reflective off of that axis point, or that reflective point. So now that we did the most difficult part, the next step, we then assign those two notes, the E and the E flat, as 1, and you start working your way outwards, keeping track of what each number is. So going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and back to essentially 1 or 12, however you want to look at it. So now that we've finished with the difficult part, all we simply have to do is match the blue numbers with the green numbers. So then we get this. So now, let's apply this to a scale. So now that we found all the chromatic notes, or the relationship to all the chromatic notes. Let's apply this to scales. Starting again with our lovely C major scale. And so, as we can see, the negative harmony of C major is C minor. Or if you want to be a little bit more technical, G Phrygian, since G is the reflection of C. You know what I mean. And since a lot of people tend to be visual learners and a lot of people tend to like seeing things mapped out into a circle, I decided to do that for you guys as well, so you guys can see the relationship between the quote-unquote original scale and the reflective mirror image of the negative harmony. And so you get this. On the top left, you're seeing the exact reflection taking place. So as you can see, they just happen straight down the middle. There's no diagonals going on. There's no other type of movement going on. So the one in the middle is the blue original C major scale, and the one on the right is the quote-unquote new, however you want to look at it, C or C minor or G Phrygian, or you take your pick, however. And so in the bottom two, you can just see what's the relationship in comparison to the two. Oh yeah, and also putting this to shapes is something that's kind of new to me, and I think it's kind of cool, but if you guys like this, let me know. I'm more than happy to make more shapes and show you the comparison and trying to understand more about the scales and all that fun stuff and chords. So then, I had like a minor revelation. I was like, hold on, okay. So if we take the time to consider what it means to find the negative of something, what do we find? Good, evil, light, darkness, happiness, sadness. So in other words, what we're finding is the opposite. Well now, how does that apply to music? For those of you guys who study theory, do you guys remember interval inversion? What we get is C, E, and C. So what do we get there? You either get a major third or a minor, so keep the emphasis on the words. We either get a major third or a minor sixth, depending if you're going from C to E or E to C, right? So when you apply the rules of negative harmony, does that mean you get the same thing? If the sad chords become happy and the happy chords become sad, from major to minor, quote unquote? Well, let's find out. So for those of you who have studied theory, as you can see, it surprisingly does, which for me was completely mind-blowing. And I don't know, I just thought it was pretty awesome, and it's pretty crazy that everything just happens to align itself so perfectly when you're reflecting off of the third. And yeah. Up next, you're going to be hearing an original song that I did based on what I learned from using negative harmony. But let me show you guys a little bit what I did to take it just a step bit more further. As we mentioned earlier, how we have that reflective axis point. So I take it to the literal sense where if I'm playing a bass note down here, when we go into the negative harmony mode, that bass goes up to the top. Well, that concludes today's video. I hope you guys really liked it and enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. And up next, you guys are going to be hearing an original song of mine entitled Oblivion, inspired by these rules of negative harmony. Let me know if you guys like it in the comments below, or let me know if you actually caught where I applied the rules of negative harmony. Either way, I'll be talking to you guys soon, and we're going to the actual basics. I know this was a very advanced, thing, but either way, thank you so much for watching, and till next time.